Do you actually have to be on cocaine to be on this podcast?
It's a great day to be a Wildcat!
Cocaine.
Dirty.
What is up, everybody? You're listening to yet another edition of Cocaine Willie. I am your commissioner, Bob Trollsby, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, the good chef Andre Napier, and Fireball Matt Marcassini. And a quick reminder, we are also Matt, why are you shaking your head? What are you shaking your head for? Jeez Louise, we're off to a phenomenal.
Chef. I don't know why.
We are off to a phenomenal start here tonight, but we are the official Kansas State University representatives on the College Huddle. So be sure to check out the College Huddle at thecollegehuddle.com and at College Huddle on all of social media. Tonight, we are joined by none other than Sam from the Wave After Wave blog. Sam, it's awesome to have you here tonight.
Hey, stoked to be here, man. I'm looking forward to Saturday. It can't come quick enough. So anytime I'm spending talking about this game is time well spent.
Love it. Love it. Well, we are going to first kick it off with a quick word from our sponsors, Annie Mae's Parlor and Pat's Beef Jerky. This show tonight is brought to you by Annie Mae's Parlor, located at 616 North 12th Street in the heart of Aggieville in Manhattan, Kansas. Auntie Mae's has been in business for 50 years and is an absolute must-visit destination in Aggieville on game days and school nights alike. It is also where I had my first legal alcoholic beverage back in 2013. Annie Mae's is far and away my favorite destination in Aggieville, and I always make a point to go visit my auntie every time I come back to the Little Apple. They feature a wide variety of craft cocktails, draft beers, and everything in between, along with entertainment like live music, comedy, and all sorts of other events every single week. And I do have an email here from Auntie Mae's themselves, and I'm going to do a quick plug on some of the upcoming events. The first of which is Jazz Night, presented by Boot Hill Distillery. Coming soon this holiday season, there will also be an Auntie Mae's signature single barrel bourbon from Boot Hill, distilled by Boot Hill. So definitely get over to Auntie Mae's to check that out. That sounds amazing. Definitely be sure to check out that signature single barrel bourbon from Boot Hill Distilleries out in Dodge City and that's on September 6th. On September 12th, we've got the Underground Guitar Poll. I know I've mentioned that a couple of times. It's a night of singers and songwriters sharing songs and stories, so that's sure to be a good time. On September 24th, we have Horrible Movie Night, and this month's movie is Night of the Kickfighters, and the note just says IMDb that shit. So be sure to IMDb that, maybe watch a trailer and see what that's all about. And then finally, the Waco Brothers will be playing at Annie Mae's Parlor on October 12th. They are a Bloodshot Records recording artist. So nice big billing coming in to play at Annie Mae's, which I think will bring a nice crowd and be a nice band to have. Nice night of ambiance and good music to be had all around. Boys, we're coming off of a nice 41-6 victory against UT Martin, heading into this matchup against Tulane, who also is coming off of a fairly nice showing in week one as well. Sam, again, just thanks a ton for joining the show tonight. Before we get into it, I do want to take a quick second and let you kind of tell the Coke heads out there, our fans and listeners, what's your story with Tulane? You said you've been a Tulane fan for a long time. So I guess tell us your story about Tulane, how you got involved maybe with Tulane athletics and covering the team.
Sure. Awesome name for your fan base. Shout out to the Coke heads. Happy to be here. I went to Tulane. I graduated in 2016. I'm a rare football fan from that generation. We were really bad when I was in college. I think we won 9 games in 4 years, and that might be generous. It was tough. When I was looking at schools, I wanted to go to a big football school in the South. My parents were a little bit like, we want you to go to a strong academic institution. I was trying to find the juggle those two. So I looked at Georgia and Florida, amongst others. Really loved Tulane, loved New Orleans. And so when I went down there, I was like, I want to go to football games. Nobody else really cared. You thought you'd meet a lot of people from the South when you go down to Tulane. Not the case. Like a bunch of kids from New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, and my home state of Maryland. So it was an interesting kind of, trial by fire when I got down there to be like, hey, who wants to go watch the football team? They hadn't won in a while, and there was no stadium uptown. So you'd bus down to the Superdome, which was like a 20-minute ride, and watch the team lose by 30, and then get on the bus back. And it just really had no game day environment. My junior year, they built Yeoman Stadium, and it really changed everything. The team was still terrible, but having a stadium on campus and a new stadium and tailgating in the quad. Tulane being, in New Orleans, the administration didn't really know how to control a massive tailgate. And so the first few were like really rowdy and reckless. We're talking, liquor bottles in the quad, people doing keg stands. It was bananas. They've cleaned it up a little bit, but, I've always been involved and been a fan. And so as I, go through the corporate day-to-day life and plotting, I was like, I really want an outlet and a hobby to talk about this team rather than just constantly blowing up my friends with excitement about recruiting or whatever it was. And so I wanted to start a blog. I've been writing for a couple of years now. I think the 2022 season really put Tulane on the map for everybody. And that's what really got me into the writing aspect. I was like, there might really be a readership and a fan base here. So from there, I was off and running. I started a Twitter account and I paid WordPress about, $10 or whatever it was to get my domain name. And here we are, man. I feel like the community is awesome. I've met so many great people through the internet who root for Tulane football and just enjoying it every day. And being able to play a big-time school at Kansas State, even grows the brand further. So I can't wait for Saturday, and I'm just stoked to be here.
Yeah, we're excited for Saturday as well. Probably a little nervous, but we're going to hear why I feel a little bit nervous about this. Hear from you starting now. So, the past 2 seasons for Tulane, awesome seasons. You have 2 11-plus win seasons. Last year finished the season off not necessarily strong, lost to SMU, lost to Virginia Tech, and then Willie Fritz went off to the Houston Cougars, one of our conference foes. We'll talk a little bit more about the coaching pieces kind of in the next question, but what has the offseason been like as a fan, a follower of this team, after the highs that you've seen the past couple years? And what are you thinking from a realistic perspective with the first year of a new coach, and what do you expect this season?
It's a great question. So it was a roller coaster of emotions. I was at the SMU game, and I was really excited. We had rolled through American Conference play. We had beaten everybody easily. Our only loss in the season was to Ole Miss, in a game that was a lot closer than the box score told. I was at that Ole Miss game. Unfortunately, Mike Pratt, who was our star quarterback the last 4 years, was unable to play. We were still up at halftime by 10 and down by 3 with 4 minutes left in driving. And then they kind of ran up the score with a couple things at the end. So it felt like we were going to win that game. Rumors started circling probably Tuesday of the SMU week that Willie was gone. I'm not going to say I have a ton of inside sources, but people close to the team that I talked to were a little bit nervous about it. And everyone was like, well, Willie Fritz is the only good coach that's been there in the last 30 years. It's been since 1998 that we've had any success whatsoever. So we lose that game in a relatively pitiful effort on a kind of sad, rainy night where the offense had one big play. And it was brutal. I remember I packed my things. I was in MSY, New Orleans Airport, and I got the push notification Willie Fritz has signed with the Houston Cougars. And I was really sad. I was depressed, and I was like, having football these last 2 years has given us such an awesome community and, reconnected. A lot of people went to the school, young and old. Football brings people together, and we really didn't have that for a while. So it was tough. And it was like, how committed is the administration to bringing in a big-time football coach? Like, even though we won the Cotton Bowl, it's always been trouble with Tulane to put money into athletics. They really want to focus on academics. And we just weren't sure if they, put another coach in or just promote the offensive coordinator or whatever, not make an effort at it. One of the hot names, on the waiver wire, let's say, was John Summerall. He had coached at Tulane in the past. He was a former defense coordinator, and he just won the Sun Belt, which I think is one of the most fun conferences around, one of the most competitive G5s back-to-back years in his first 2 years coaching. Young, energetic, defensive-minded. He was a slam dunk. I honestly didn't think we could get him. Mississippi State was talking to him. Any of the big SEC openings, he was rumored as a potential candidate, as a kind of a rising star. The guy won 23 of his first 27 games. The only guy with a better record than Willie Fritz, or the same record, I should say, out there was John Summerall. So when that happened, it was like, oh my God. And then this kind of crazy thing is happening with the transfer portal. It's been really good for Tulane in that we're in a city where a lot of talent comes from, and we have a pretty strong NIL collective that I actually work with, the Fear the Wave Collective. Shout out to them. So from deep depression of thinking that the Willie Fritz era and really Tulane football as we knew it was over, to Summerall injecting momentum. And then you see a quarterback come across from Oregon, you see a receiver coming from Alabama and USC, names, you'd never associate with Tulane before. Momentum started building, and each transfer edition and each week covering the team was exciting. I had tons of views in the offseason and readers, and that was just like completely unexpected. So I don't want to be long-winded here, but it was a crazy kind of transition from the best coach we'd had of the modern Tulane football fan leaving in the middle of the night to a former conference rival, essentially for more money, pretty much a lateral hire. I know they're in the Big 12, but not really. They're an expansion team at best. And Houston will go, have 3 wins in the Big 12 this year again. So it hurt. But Summerall's injected new life. He's younger. The coaching staff is great. The players have great buy-in. And this is a team in the ascendancy. I think you guys are going to see a team that is really scary and dangerous for both you guys and Oklahoma. I'm not getting over my skis. I don't necessarily expect to dominate, but I think a very competitive game is in order.
Okay, so you laid it out there with Summerall, but I want to know, what has Summerall done so far through when he first arrived, and now that we're through one game? Is it everything that you expected? Are the players buying in? And did the scheme fit good enough for you? Because everybody has their little personal opinions on what the coach is going to bring. He's a defensive minded guy, and Tulane's been high flying this past couple of years, but has he filled in the shoes well enough for Willie Fritz?
So it's been 1 week. A lot of people are excited to see 52-0. It was a big first week, and the offense and defense both look good. So to answer your question, first and foremost on scheme, defensive coordinator for the last couple of years under Willie was Sheil Wood, who was a Troy guy who actually served under Summerall for a bit 1 year before coming over to Tulane. So the 3-2-5, 3-3-5 kind of thing we see here with a spear, like nickel back in there as a third safety. It's a little different than 3-3-5 you guys run, which is very wacky with the jack. But anyways, so the defense looked pretty familiar. Attitude's great. I interview players pretty much weekly. They love the guy. He's young. He's energetic. He played. He was at Kentucky. He was a linebacker. His whole thing is having juice. He brings the energy. The music is pumped up at practice. He's fired up. He's a high-energy guy. I've talked to John a lot. He's an exciting guy to talk to. He makes a big point to talk to donors and fans, and he will be fired up, and you'll be ready to run through a wall for the guy anytime you talk to him. So he's really exciting. Willie was a great coach and a program and a culture builder, and I think people lose sight of that. People were very mad at Willie Fritz for leaving and felt, Sean, he put Tulane on the map. You have to give him that. Whatever he does at Houston, I don't really care, but what he gave us at Tulane matters a lot to me. But the energy around the team is totally different. Willie Fritz got us to where Summerall is now, and he's brought a lot of energy, but it all comes down to this week. We can beat FCS, Southeastern Louisiana, any day, any year, but we can't necessarily compete with the Kansas State, every other year. So we need to show what we got against the big boys, and I'm ready for that.
Love that. So quarterback, I want to get into quarterback because we got pretty familiar with Michael Pratt, especially when we were previewing we had Fear the Wave KC. He was the guy that came on and previewed 2 years ago. So it's nice that we're still keeping it kind of in the Fear the Wave collective family there. But there was a lot of conversation about Michael Pratt and going into that matchup. Maybe he had a lot of talent, but hadn't quite proven it yet necessarily against good competition, because they were coming off of that 2-10 season the year prior. Obviously the hurricane was kind of a weird thing, but he goes on and becomes an NFL draftee. So he's got big shoes to fill. And the guy coming in to fill those shoes is Darian Mensah. So he takes over at quarterback after Michael Pratt graduates and goes to the NFL draft. He comes into this matchup after a week 1, 52-0 shellacking of Southeastern Louisiana. And he went 10 for 12 with 205 yards and 2 touchdowns in that matchup. And his longest pass of the day went to none other than former Sooner turned Trojan turned Green Wave, Mario Williams, who we'll get to later. But tell us more about Darian Mensah's story and what can we expect from him at quarterback? Because I read your last article, the recapping the game. You called him Messiah and kind of a call out to Messiah there. So it sounds like he's got quite a bit of hype to live up to there.
So it's funny, man. I appreciate that you read my blog, first and foremost. So coming into the year, Kai Horton returned. He started a couple games for us. Pretty solid backup to Mike Pratt. No complaints about what Kai can do. came in, beat Houston famously in triple overtime once. And then Ty Thompson was the huge name. Ty Thompson, if you look at his high school recruiting profile, he's there next to like Drake May and a couple other, you know what I mean, just absolute studs. I think it's like Jackson Dart, Ty Thompson, and Drake May was their class, which is funny because Dart is still in the show, and so is Ty, and then Drake, already went. So anyways, we thought it was going to be Ty Thompson. And I am covering the team in the offseason. Every time Summerall was talking about practice or any kind of scrimmage, it was always like, well, Mensa had a great day. And then it would be quick and on to, and people would like talk about Ty Thompson, the starting quarterback. Each time it happened, I was like, why aren't we taking note of this? Look at the stats. It says Ty Thompson completed 50% of his passes with a pick. Kai Horton, pretty much the same thing. Darian Mensa was 7 for 7 with 2 touchdowns. It's like, wait a minute, why is nobody talking about this? And so I was quick, and I look back, and I've got to taking a fun victory lap on it. Back in April, I was like, I think this kid can start. He's playing really well. And there are a lot of good things talking about him last year. Him and Mike Pratt are good friends. He was a redshirt freshman for us, did a lot of good things. He's a really interesting story because we don't recruit California. He's from San Luis Obispo. I think he might be one of 2 California guys on the roster. We're a Southeast and Texas kind of program. So I don't know where Wes Fritz, who's Willie's son, who does our kind of player personnel or did, found him or how it happened. His only other scholarship offer was from Idaho State, like not the Idaho Vandals, Idaho State. I think he was a 2-star prospect. He looks amazing. He's played 1 game. But if you watch Darian's highlights from last week, he was 10 of 12, as you said. He put 1 in the bucket to Dante Fleming in the end zone, went right through his hands, should have been a touchdown. The other incompletion was a shot play to Mario Williams. It was like a 50-50 ball that just went incomplete where he was trying to make something happen. Everything else was crisp. He completed 3rd and longs with ease. He moved well in the pocket. For a guy making his first start at the collegiate level who started on the depth chart 3rd string, he looked incredibly poised. And now if you talk to receivers, any of our skill position guys, and that's what I like to do with the quarterback and find out who they like during a quarterback competition, all of them are like, Mensa. Look for Mensa. Mensa's a gunslinger. Mensa's got great swag. Mensa can play. So everybody who was talking about it was saying that Darian Mensa was the guy. And so I picked up the beat quickly, and I was like, I got nothing to lose here. If he doesn't become the guy, then it's like, well, you were touting a 3rd stringer. And if he does, it's a great story. If he comes out and plays like he did last week against Kansas State, this is going to be one of the best stories in college football this year.
And I guess my next question is schematically, obviously you had kind of an air it out type of offense with Willie Fritz that you were running with Mike Pratt. Schematically, how is what you're running this year under the new coaching staff differ from what you ran during the Fritz era? And how does Mensa play into that?
So it's interesting. I think you can only take so much from a game against an FCS team, right? We thought we were going to run the ball a lot. Mekhi Hughes is your guys' biggest worry next week. He was an absolute stud last year at 1,300 yards, and he didn't even start the whole year. He is an absolute bruiser in the middle, and he's got speed. We expected to run the ball a lot. We ended up doing that kind of by committee. We had a bunch of different guys. I think we're keeping the offense relatively vanilla. I expect runs to set up play action for our offense. I think Mekhi Hughes is going to pound you, and then we're going to try and pick up chunks with play action with Darian. You might see some read option stuff as well, and potentially, Ty Thompson, who I mentioned, will come in and do some running. But I think that Craddock is confident in him throwing the ball down the field because he wasn't scared to do it. And I think you wouldn't have him do it against an FCS team when you didn't need to. We could have handed the ball off on every play and won that game, but we didn't do that. He was taking shots, including a 60-yarder to Mario. The throw to Dante that he dropped was a 50-yarder that was in the air on the money. Full speed. He can throw. He throws a pretty ball, and he's fun to watch. I mean, there's nothing more exciting than having a young quarterback who kind of came out of nowhere, seemingly. So the fan base is really excited and kind of rallying around him. And this test on Saturday couldn't come at a better time. It might be that, it was a flash in the pan, or it might be we're seeing the kind of rise of something serious here.
Talking about Mekhi Hughes and maybe a little bit more in the running game. So you mentioned last season, had an excellent season for the number of games that he did play. This past week, he had 14 carries for 59 yards. Obviously, in a kind of a blowout scenario, it's very hard to, judge a performance, especially with, trying to bring different guys in the backfield and see what's going on. But kind of describe his game a little bit. What kind of runner is he? And knowing, from a K-State perspective, we gave up 36 yards rushing last week, obviously against an FCS team. But what do you think about what he needs to do, and maybe with your offensive line, what they have to do to try and get him some opportunities in the backfield?
Yeah, I thought the offensive line run blocking was a little bit choppy in the first game. It got better. Makai didn't play that much. He didn't need to. And so, he's a between the tackles guy who's going to pound you for 6 yards, but he's also got speed around the edges. But, he's happiest running right down the middle and like knocking over middle linebackers and taking in first tackle and keeping it moving. He's a great back from the standpoint of that he's going to run right down the middle and try and run over you, which I love about him. I mean, you guys saw Tajay a couple of years ago, who was phenomenal and, dancing outside, incredible agility, and really, really hard to stop. This is different and more my style back. Tajay Spears is one of my favorite players ever, but he's not really like a lower shoulder and run right through you guy. More of a, juke and beat you with speed, which is awesome too. Makai's going to make you feel him. And so I know Kansas State's run defense is vaunted. I've heard a lot of good things. I watched your guys' game against UT Martin in total yesterday, and the run defense looked good. So I think we're going to have him come in and try and, beat up on the inside. I feel good about our offensive line. I think we got a strong group. One of the guys on Twitter said, I think we have the 10th most starts returning out of any offensive line in the country. An experienced group coming back, almost everybody from last year. And then all the transfers are guys that started elsewhere for a couple of seasons. So I feel good up front, but it's an up and weight class going against Big 12. It's a different size. And Kansas State's got a stout defense. So Makai's got to set the tone for us. I think Darian, as comfortable and cool as he's been, he's going to be a little nervous. I'd be shocked if he wasn't. We're going to lean on the run game early, if I had to guess, and then try and open up play action with that. And
opening up with play action, you're going to be looking for that one guy, and that guy is Mario Williams, who you guys scooped out of the transfer portal. He's probably one of the biggest grabs you've ever gotten at Tulane. He started at OU, bounced around a little bit, but now he's in Tulane. What are we expecting from him? Has he improved from that vaunted freshman season that he had with OU, and can he keep it up?
It's a good question. Mario Williams, when he came, it was like, oh my God, like this is the most real thing that has ever happened to Tulane, just from a name brand household name. Like you remember as well as I do, Caleb Williams and Mario Williams, like those were the two, like freshman year at Oklahoma. I was like, this guy's gonna be the next first round receiver. This is the next Hollywood Brown. This is the next Marvin Mims, CeeDee Lamb, you name it. And then he's like, well, of course I'm going to SC with Link and Caleb. And Mario Williams had a solid career there, but not as strong as his freshman year. Including kind of a ignominious Cotton Bowl where he fumbled out of bounds on the kickoff against us. And it's funny, I was giving Mario shit when I interviewed him about that. And I was like, we weren't going to bring it up, but now that you have. So he's been a Tulane legend for a couple of years already because without that safety, we don't win that game. So shout out Mario for that. I think he was always rooting for us. He can play. His speed in the first in FCS, I don't care who you're playing, separation, hands. He had 3 great catches. He had 124 yards on Thursday night. He is a threat, and it's not just a deep shot, home run ball guy. He can run overs. He can run digs. He can run crossers. The receiver room is better than I think that it's given credit for, actually. Keith Brown came over from Texas A&M. He was a 4-star athlete out of Miami Central. He's a really, really strong player as well. He had a touchdown and caught a couple of passes last week as well. And we were hoping to have Shaz Preston in the kind of revenge game. I know you guys were hot on his recruiting, ended up choosing Tulane. And so I was really excited to see him put up a big game against Kansas State. I will avoid any, spoilers here. He's not going to play. Shaz has a hammy that he's been dealing with. He will probably be back for the Louisiana Lafayette game, which is 2 weeks from now. And that's something that Coach Summerall has said before, so I'm not leaking any secrets here. But the other guy, Alex Bauman, is another guy to watch. I don't know how you guys have covered tight ends. He's big. He's fast. Really nice safety blanket. He had a touchdown, a couple good underneath catches for Darian. I think he'll target him early. We have a really complete room there, and that's just naming a few guys. The receiver room is the room I feel the best about on the whole team.
No, we are a tight end pod. We are a tight end fan pod. We absolutely love the tight end unit. So we love you sharing that. Real quick though, before we pivot over to the defense, this show is brought to you by Pat's Beef Jerky, located at 401 Main Street in Liebenthal, Kansas. Pat's Beef Jerky has been serving up the finest beef jerky in the Midwest for 34 years strong and features mouth-watering flavors like the classic beef jerky, the teriyaki beef jerky I had in my hand there, and my personal favorite, their savory beef pepper sticks. There are 3 places where you can get yourself some Pat's Beef Jerky. You can pick it up in person at either the Fridge Liquor Store in Manhattan or at their original store at 401 Main Street in Liebenthal, Kansas. Last but not least, you can get your Pat's Beef Jerky online at www.patsbeefjerky.com. And if you use the promo code CATS, you will get 10% off of your next order. And I had forgotten to put the banner up at the bottom of the screen because that was a rookie move. But you can see the promo code down there at the bottom along with the website. So use the promo code CATS at checkout and visit patsbeefjerky.com to place your order today. Moving over to defense. So when we faced Troy last year, because we again have the experience of playing Troy from last season as well as Tulane 2 years ago. So there's a lot of crossover between what our staff has seen and what they will be seeing this next weekend, whether it's personnel or scheme, coaching staff, all that good stuff. But the guys over at the Trojan Wall, what they told us last year was that this Troy team had a propensity to blitz. And that Troy defense last year set a Sunbelt record for sacks in a season with 45 total sacks last year, which I think is kind of an insane stat to think about. Will that be similar to what we see this coming weekend against Tulane, or do you think the staff plans to add in more wrinkles than just kind of, hey, this kind of Steve Spagnuolo, let's just blitz him every other play kind of thing?
Shout out Spags. Love the blitz. I'm interested to see it as much as you guys are. I think, both Gasparotto and Summerall will be reviewing their performance against you guys last year and wondering what went wrong. So I think there might be some wrinkles, and we didn't see much in the way of wrinkles. I thought they called a very base defense against Louisiana, keeping everything a secret. Pass rush was a huge element of focus during the transfer portal. Aiden Huntington, we brought in. He was sought after by Oklahoma, Cal, Duke, LSU, to name a few. We're waiting to see him unleashed. He was a huge get for us and just a monster in the weight room. You see highlight videos of this guy squatting like 600 pounds and bench pressing 350. He is the guy I'm looking for. That's number 45. I'm looking most to as our impact player on the defensive line. Pat Jenkins was an All-American last year by College Football Network. Is probably the most well-known name on our defense. Great run stopper. He can rush the pass as well in the middle. And then Terrell Allen play what's the bandit role in the Gasparotto defense, which is kind of your pass rush end. They didn't generate any sacks in the first game, which was a disappointment to me, but I think Southeastern Louisiana really tried to get the ball out quickly. One read stuff, a lot of misdirection and motion in the backfield. They didn't want to have their quarterback sitting back there for a few minutes. I think it's going to be different with Avery. I think it's going to be different with his speed. I've been watching a lot of his stuff. I watched the bowl game from last year before coming on here and the UT Martin game. I don't know that we've seen all of the Avery Johnson that we're going to see on Saturday. I really hope that our pass rush is ready because we need to contain him. He's my biggest fear. Running back's good too, but it's really Avery's legs that have given me, the most worry going into the week.
So just kind of getting a little bit more heavy into the defensive line and talking about a couple guys that put up some sacks last week, Parker Peterson, Cameron Hamilton. Hamilton forced a fumble last week. Aiden Huntington, Pat Jenkins, they had 3 tackles as well in the game last week. So just give us a little bit more insight. You mentioned stuff about the pass rush, but maybe the overall defensive line and what our offensive line is going to have to do to make sure that we're not giving up any sacks on Saturday.
So as you noted, they're rotating a lot of guys in. The starters are the ones that I named. You'll definitely see Cam Hamilton. He comes in at D-tackle. He's a really awesome story. He grew up deaf. It's a great piece on him if you're interested. He picked up football late as a good friend of one of his buddies locally, got him into Tulane football, and he's been awesome for us. Just a really great player that I think has a huge ceiling. He started the season last year with 2 sacks in South Alabama. Started with a sack, the next game or the next season this year. Cam Hamilton's exciting. I think your offensive line is just going to need to be prepared for some exotic blitz types. I expect us to bring a lot of rush, as you mentioned, with Gasparotto last season. I think he's going to heat him up. This is me guessing. You know what I mean? I don't have any insight into the game plan, but I think that's the best way to kind of get a young quarterback on tilt. We're not the only ones with a young quarterback. Avery, obviously, this is his 3rd start, bowl game, and then the UT Martin game. So I think put him under pressure, see how he responds, see if we make a mistake. So I think you'll see a lot of defensive linemen, but the names you'll see the most of are Jenkins, Huntington, Allen. Matthew Fobbs-White is another guy to highlight. He'll play some bandit as well as they try and rotate in fresh legs to try and keep the pass rush up. D-line room is deep. We picked up a couple guys in the portal. It was a good unit last year. Landius Wilkinson's the coach. he's a really strong defensive line coach. Came over from South Alabama, really popular with our guys. So I like our D line to bring the heat and hopefully put some pressure and force some bad throws.
Well, I don't want to see that, but I do want to talk about the linebackers. Sam Howard is the linebacker that I want to talk about. He had a pretty solid game last game. Give me a little bit of rundown on him if he's the leader of that group, and give me a couple other linebackers. I think you're running 2 linebackers usually at a time. So give me his running mate with the linebackers.
Yeah, so Tyler Grubbs is probably the leader of the group. He's the returning, linebacker there, and a guy who's just a leader in the locker room. If you watch, I know Bob read my blog on the Rashawn Pleasant pick 6. You see Tyler Grubbs sprinting full speed to blow up a left tackle and spring Rashawn for the touchdown. Just a total team move, starting linebacker in a game where going to win for sure, putting his body on the line to make that 100-yard pick 6 happen. So Tyler Grubbs, an awesome guy, plays all heart. He's really fun to watch and is definitely an emotional leader. Sam Howard came over from Austin P. He's a real sure tackler. We lost Jesus Machado, unfortunately, who was our starting Mike early or end of last year. I believe it was the bowl game that Jesus got injured. He was our leading tackler. Need to go to the portal to shore that up. Sam Howard's been nothing but a pro. He came over in the spring portal, so he's only been there for a short period of time. He was flying around. His name was called very quickly, early and often in the game. You're going to see Dixon Agu as well rotating in, who's a guy that's been there for a couple of years. He made a couple good run stops. Lesser known guy, but from what I've been reading and told from the coaching staff, has been really strong throughout camp. So I think linebacker-wise, those are the main 3 names to watch. Tyler Grubbs, 13, Sam Howard, and Dixon Agu are probably your guys that we play. 2 of them on the field at any given time.
And now I got a question on this real quick. I'm looking through your coaching staff. John Summerall, love it. He's got some interesting titles for his defensive coaches. So you got Taylor Polk, who's your assistant defensive coordinator, inside linebackers coach, and then you've got Bam Hardman, who is the outside linebacker coach. Makes sense, but then the run game coordinator. What is happening here? Is he coaching both sides of the ball?
Yeah,
is he Travis Hunter of the coaching world?
Bam, I think, likes to get involved in any kind of man football, and that's linebackers and running the ball. He's a guy that likes to be in there for the physicality, from what I'm told. And yeah, I mean, Summerall's guys, his group is almost all from Troy. Put together a great staff, and I think that you got a guy who likes just football in the trenches, and that's running the ball up the middle and making stops at the middle. So that's what he's all about.
We love a football guy like that. Moving on to the DBs, I guess this is kind of the last position group we'll cover here. Slim, and I may need your help pronouncing his last name, but Slim Despainey at safety led the team in tackles last week with 8, and then Rashawn Pleasant had that pick 6 that we just talked about. I guess just how critical are those guys to this weekend's matchup, and who else do you think within that DB room is going to pose a threat to a lot? We've been hearing all offseason about these weapons that K-State has, and we didn't see as much of that last week as I think maybe we hoped we would, but we got some weapons still that pose a threat, at least to the defense.
Yeah, so Slim Despainey, I always think of as kind of the underrated, unsung hero of the defense. He's a great guy. I talk to Slim all the time. He was one of my first Twitter followers or guy to reach out to me on the team. So shout out Slim, and shout out you, Bob, for doing your research and knowing he goes by Slim instead of Bailey. And then Jalen Geiger. Jalen Geiger came over from Kentucky, big safety, 6'1", 200 pounds, sure tackler, box safety. He can make plays, and then you'll see Rashawn rotate in. And then we run what's called this spear position, or a nickel in the Summerall defense. Caleb Bransaw is there. Caleb Bransaw plays this little bit of a hybrid role. He's lower down. He'll play some nickel coverage. He'll come up and run defense. He's a stud that came over, great coverage guy in the slot. Look out for him to make an impact as well. Number 7, Caleb Bransaw.
All right, so let's look overall big picture. And, there's a lot of people that will probably be listening to this that, we remember 2022 Tulane very heavily. And there's a lot of people that, are nervous about this game specifically because of what happened 2 years ago, even though the teams are vastly different in so many ways. But, what areas do you think Tulane may have an advantage in this matchup? What are some things that maybe strike to you as, you want to take advantage of if you're going to try, if you're going to beat K-State on Saturday?
Definitely. I think you got to, pick your shots, pick your spots, go for deep shots off of play action, try and, make big plays when you can. We have the element of nothing to lose. I think, nobody is expecting us to win this game, or nobody outside of, a small community on Twitter and down in New Orleans. Kansas State is primed for a playoff run. You guys have a great team this year. And there's no reason to believe that you guys can't win every game you play this year in a Big 12 that's lost some of its teeth with Texas and Oklahoma gone. So I think, we go into this game thinking we can play with you guys. We deserve to be there, but also with very little to lose. We are at home. We're healthy. We didn't lose anybody week one with the exception of Shaz, who hasn't suited up yet. We have every starter that we're going to have. And we've got some guys that have, played at a big level who are not scared of this kind of team. The Mario Williamses, the O'Keefe Browns, the Mekhi Hughes of the world have all beaten, big name programs before. So I think that they're ready to rock and roll. I mean, Mekhi had 120 on Ole Miss week 2. I think this team is better than that team that played Ole Miss. I'm high on Darian Mensah, but, I think we'll see how his first big game goes. But if he plays the way he plays, I really feel like we're going to give you guys some trouble. I'm not taking Kansas State lightly. I'm not going to sit here and tell you we're going to come in and steamroll you. But I do think this is the kind of game that nobody wants to play. I don't think you'll see Ole Miss back at Yeoman Stadium anytime soon, because even without Mike Pratt, we put a big scare into them. And that was one of their best years last year. So I think Tulane is in a program that's really in the ascendancy, playing with a lot of guys who feel confident as a little bit of giant killers. The big win over SC, we took Ole Miss to the wire. This is the next kind of name in that tier. The win over you guys on the road as well in 2022. So I think our group comes in ready to kind of spoil the party and knowing that they've done it before, even though the roster is so different. I think that Tulane, as a program feels like the right school to kind of, put a scare into these bigger schools with an early road test that maybe people are looking past.
The team's feeling confident. I mean, they've got past experience. You're feeling a little – I'm sensing a little bit of confidence in there. You're not saying we're going to get steamrolled, but what is your prediction? Give me that score, baby.
I'm expecting a high-scoring game. I really do think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I hate to do it to you guys, but I'm taking us to win. I'm going 35-31 Green Wave.
Let's go.
Feel free to clown me on Twitter, all the guys, Kansas State fans to watch afterwards. I gotta stick with my boys here. I expect a close game. Tulane wins late with some strong offense. If it goes the other way, I won't be shocked, but I am confident enough to think that we have a chance to win this game.
Chef, Matt, what do you got? What do you got for your score prediction for the final?
Surprise. I mean, early, little glimpse into the future. I was on the Bosco's boys doing the whip around, and I got the score lower than that. I hit it 33-21 Cats. I think we cover by 1.
Barely.
Wow.
Matt.
I'm not even. I think it's actually going to be a lower scoring game than people think. I think the defenses are going to kind of show up. For us, I think we're going to start off a little bit slow from an offensive perspective, and we're going to rely on the defense to make some plays. I'm taking the under. I'm going 21-20 Cats.
Wow.
I just think it's I also look at it in a way where, we'll have some longer drives, which eat up some of that time of possession. And I think possessions are going to come as a premium in this game. I'm going the opposite of what a lot of people think. I see these types of games, you look at these types of games historically where you have a Power 4 team coming into this type of environment, and it's very rare that I feel like it's, an offensive slugfest. I just think the defenses are going to really show up in this game. And I think it's going to be a 1-point Cats win.
It's certainly possible. I think you're a little stuck in 2022, but I think it's definitely possible. It's interesting. We know so little, I think, about both these teams in a way. There's a lot of unknowns. And the first week, cupcakes for both teams, putting up 52 points against a team, or 41 in your guys' case against a team with not a lot of teeth doesn't mean much about either offense. I just really feel like on a hot day in Louisiana, we're going to be, moving the ball. It's going to be some high octane plays. And I think both offenses have the ability to have some explosives. And so we'll see. what transpires. I don't know if it was a low scoring game. I wouldn't be totally shocked. I don't think we're going to get something in the middle where the total is like 49 or 50. I think it's either going to be 60 plus points or under 40. You know what I mean? And it's just depending on the tone of the game. We'll see. I am really excited. I think you guys should be excited. This is the game that you really want to have, I think, on that second Saturday where, like, everyone will be tuned into Texas, Michigan, but it's going to be on the other TV in the bar and like, holy shit, what's happening in New Orleans? This game's a lot of fun. I think it's going to be fun for all parties involved. I hope a bunch of fans from Kansas State make it out of New Orleans and, enjoy our city. I know you guys were there for the Sugar Bowl recently. But it's a great opportunity for us to play a good team and a good fan base, and I hope that we continue the rivalry going forward after these two.
Absolutely. And real quick, I'll hit my score prediction, then we'll get out of here. But I think the Cats are going to cover the 10-point spread against the Green Wave. I just think after the gut punch in 2022, I just don't think that some of the guys who are holdovers from that team are going to allow the rest of the team to overlook Tulane in any kind of way. And I think after last week, it was an okay but not great performance for the offense. So I think the offense for K-State's going to have something to prove coming into this matchup against Tulane. So we may see them not crack open the playbook, but maybe just give a quick passage, like a new passage getting unleashed there from the prologue potentially. I don't know. So
Brother, if Connor Riley doesn't open that full playbook, we're gonna have a barnstorming pretty soon because I'm gonna be upset if he doesn't crack that full playbook for Tulane going right into Arizona the next Friday after that. So you got a short week coming. Get that full playbook going, man. Come on.
31-10 Cats, in my opinion.
Wow.
So right around that 40.
10 points, ruthless.
Our defense,
no way.
Our defense
No
is pretty good. But Sam, thank you again a ton for coming on to preview the Green Wave this weekend. Let the Cokeheads know where they can find you, and then we'll give you the final word before we get out of here.
Yeah, follow me at Wave After G Wave on Twitter. Look out to see a bunch of Kansas State fans in my mention talking about how awful Bob was with that score prediction. But I wish you guys luck. Should be an awesome game. Let the points soar, and let's have fun in New Orleans this weekend, boys.
Love it. That's going to do it for us today. Once again, we're going to shout out our sponsors, Pat's Beef Jerky and Annie Mae's Parlor. Remember to visit patsbeefjerky.com and use the promo code CATS for 10% off your next order. Additionally, we are the K-State representative on the College Huddle, which is the largest community of fan-driven content in the nation. Check them out at thecollegehuddle.com. Follow them on social media at College Huddle. Last but not least, you can follow our show at Cocaine Willie on YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, or Instagram, or follow us individually. I'm at Bob Trollsby. Chef is at Chef Andre Napier. Fireball Matt is at Matt Marchesini, and Sam is at Wave After G Wave. Chef.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug, baby.
We are all coke and no joke. Wildcat Country.
Let's fucking ride.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right.